Gentleman from Arkansas is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank Mr. Scalise for bringing this forward. This is such an important, it's just important for us periodically to pause and think about the tremendous sacrifice, especially while the men and women that made all of this possible are still with us, that we can pause and just think of the sacrifice that they did on this day. I also want to welcome Mr. Scalise to the Veterans Affairs Committee. That he has volunteered to become a part of that committee and to work in a very bipartisan way so that we can do our best for veterans. On June 6, 1944, the United States participated in the largest seaboard invasion in history. Countless men and women served their country that day, and I stand before you to ask for your support for the designation of National D-Day Remembrance Day. Preparations for D-Day began long before June 6, 1944. In fact, discussions about an Allied invasion began in 1942. The Germans inspected an invasion along the north coast of France and built up forces along the narrowest portion of the channel. However, the Allies planned to land just south of the German buildup. In order to execute a successful campaign, our men and women, along with Allied forces in other countries, not only had to plan an attack, but also to contend with many of the same issues we ourselves are faced with today. War planners projected 5,000 tons of gasoline would be needed daily for the first 20 days. After the initial invasion, 3,489 tons of soap would be needed in the first 4 months after the invasion. Approximately 300 planes would drop bombs along the coast of Normandy. 6 parachute regiments, including 13,000 men, needed to be transported. 5,000 vessels would transport men and 30,000 vehicles across the English Channel. It's clear that the efforts that led to D-Day and the many days afterward were that of dedicated men and women who sacrificed their jobs, their families, and in many cases their own lives to ensure that the United States of America and the Allied forces would be successful. Words cannot express our gratitude for their courage and spirit. However, by designating a National D-Day Remembrance Day, we can continue to remember the sacrifice, unwavering commitment to our country, and determination of the men and women who fought and won World War II. I urge my colleagues to remember and honor these men and women by supporting this resolution. I also want to comment on Mr. Obey, what he said in regard to the actual monument. And I've had the opportunity to be there. My daughter, while she was vacationing in Europe in her early 20s, she and her friends enjoyed it so much that they actually were just going and planning on spending an afternoon, wound up spending the night, and were so impressed with the way that everything's portrayed that, again,
time has expired.
Did a good job. I yield back.
Gentlewoman from Florida.
Mr. Speaker, I yield 2 minutes to the gentleman from Louisiana, Mr. Cazayoux.
Mr. Speaker, thank you. I rise in support of House Concurrent Resolution 1235 by my fellow delegation member, Congressman Scalise. This resolution thoughtfully commemorates the sacrifices of our armed services on that fateful day 64 years ago on the beach of Normandy. I was reminded of their sacrifice when I visited veterans over Memorial Day at a ceremony at the USS Kidd in Baton Rouge. I also attended an event for the Louisiana Honor Air Program, which helps our World War II veterans, many themselves D-Day survivors,